Well, we're all upright now, but Joe is definitely in freeze frame. Turning. As the world turns, we are down and under, and Tanya's up and over. Or could it be sideways? What if we weren't up and up, down under or up above? We were like both side to side. Then who would be on the top?
Well, in the grand scheme of things, in the whole universe, there is no up or down. Just that's our perception of it.
Well, is that real?
No, I just made that up.
So how do we know it's true?
We don't know that it's true either way.
It's very valid. So we tend to believe things that we consider true because we've been taught them, or because we've had the experience, or both.
Well, in that case, it's just something that seems to have been, and so nobody ever wants to challenge it. I remember as a kid, I was saying, so what made green green? Who decided blue was blue? And they all looked at me like, what's wrong with you, kid? Like, it is.
Yeah. I remember totally feeling like if I taught my daughters, like Dusty when she was first, that red was blue, and green was yellow, like she would just believe me, right?
Yeah.
And because that's what she's taught until she was confronted with something else. And heck, isn't that what we actually do to our children?
I don't know. Joanne was saying she can't hear us.
What happened?
I don't know. I got all my...
See if your mute button is on, Joe. Or exit out again and come back in and see if you've got your audio on.
Or is the volume up? I had a couple times I did all that other stuff and my volume was turned down. I guess do we got to do this over chat?
Oh, she can't hear us? Oh, I guess that's what. Oh. Okay, that's a prime example of, someone's like, I can't hear you. Okay, but I'll keep talking. Or I'll talk louder.
Yeah. It's a good thing we give her lots of good direction.
Okay. Have you got the chat going? Comments. Where is the chat? I don't see the chat button. She's going to come back in and out now. She's left the building. Okay. So, have you seen anything recently with AI?
No. Well, not that I know of.
Nothing. Well, I had somebody that Tanya and I know, she sent me a symbol, and she said this was her, like, an AI generated symbol, and it was lovely and impeccable, except I felt no energy from it. And that's what I said. I said it's totally impeccable, like it's great, but there's nothing coming from it like when I see one of your other personal symbols.
Well, that's the one thing that they are millennia away from programming into AI is spirit.
You think they could program spirit into AI?
Well, it happened to us. Spirit had entered into us at one point. So at one point, yeah. But I think we're long, like we could be like 100 years from that or something like that.
So could we actually just be AI in disguise?
Well, we were generated. We were created. So as AI is created.
But aren't we more important because we're like in a human form? Isn't that what we're telling everybody, that we're so important?
Well, we're definitely, I don't know if we're more important, but we're important.
I think if you go back, like if we take it a step further and go, let's look from the outside, from some other being or life form or whatnot, we could, for them, they could be natural, and for us to, like we're talking about, we could be AI. So we're not, are we more important? Is it different? What's, it's just our perception of it.
Yeah, I just know for me, I'm just really spending more time discerning what I feel, and that's my stories or rationalizations or justifications or making it mean something that this is why this is have diminished greatly, and it's just like, yeah, there's just something off there. I don't know what it is, but it's just off for me. And I was saying to someone, it could be like, we've got multiple waves and frequencies going through, and I just identify more closely with the blue wave, and someone else identifies with the yellow bubbles, and someone else the green sparkles. And it's not a right or wrong. It's just, that's not my wave, right?
It's just different. But at what point do we, if things are so different, at what point do we say something? If it goes a little too far for us.
You mean like if AI goes and tells everybody to do something silly?
Any opinion that's different than ours, if it goes too far, at what point do we say something?
Well, I think that it happens all the time, doesn't it? Like
In
we're
our
always
mind.
being pushed to go beyond what's comfortable or what we think anyway. It's like if you want to look through history, everything has been pushing forward, beyond our comfort. It's always changing to different degrees of whether we push back or whether we question it or whatnot. It depends on, yeah.
That's like the ever-moving goalpost. Depends on the day, depends on how, depends on who, depends on what.
On your mood.
There's a lot of variables that go into that. So there isn't really one answer for that. That was a loaded question. I did that on purpose. Because there is no real one answer for that, because it could be something that doesn't bug you today and tomorrow could be a trigger. Piss you right off, because it just depends where you're at.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, through history, to different degrees, some things trigger people more or push their buttons, like you're saying, and some things it doesn't even register on the radar.
I see it as opportunity. I had a person that I coached this week on that exact same thing, and they saw somebody having a fire, like just a bonfire inside a boatyard, and they took the picture from the fire that looked like people were having a really good time and posted on it and said, "Oh, what do you guys think of this?" Didn't say it was right, didn't say it was wrong. Da 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 da. Oh boy, did they get a lashing! And people, from my coaching perspective, I tried to explain it to him, and he didn't come back. He argued and argued and argued, and I said, "Okay, that's fine." That was a coach-like conversation. It wasn't a coaching session. And I said, in the coaching that I've come across, there's like this triangle. So you're the person that has potentially harmed someone or poked someone or said, hey, these guys are doing something wrong. And then there's 5 or 6 people that came back in the group and said, listen, you shouldn't be pointing out people like this and saying they're doing something wrong, because they are then the protector. And then the third part of the equation of the triangle is the person who's been attacked, we'll say, or the person that's protecting them feels like they're protecting them because they think they're being attacked, even though the person themselves couldn't give a crap. Maybe they think, oh well, yeah, you're right, I probably shouldn't have had a fire there, well, whatever. But the people that reacted in the conversation, so many of them came out and pointed out and said, you're a jerk, I can't believe you pointed these people out, you did this, you did that, and that. So I tried to explain to him, I said, in every attempt to put something on a post, you're going to get a percentage of the people, maybe a third, that are going to come back out and say, hey, you're attacking this person, I'm the protector. So there's always a reason why someone will be a protector. Someone thinks that someone else getting attacked, even if they don't even think they are, and then the person who actually started the episode to begin with, which was a post. So I said, you might want to be more careful when you put out there. What about boosting people up? Instead of pointing out when someone's done something wrong, put it out there that, wow, this is great. And he said, yeah, but this was wrong. And I had to speak up about it. And I'm like, did you? Did you really? Do you really have time for this drama? You're trying to change. You're trying to grow. You're trying to be a better person. And you tell me I'm a nice person all the time. But I don't think this is very nice in my opinion and my perspective. And I'm your friend, so I can tell you what it is. I can point it out to you. And they pushed and just pushed back the whole time. And then a couple hours later, I took down the post. I see what you mean. I don't know if I agree, but I see what you mean. But and I said, I'm pointing it out to you. This is something I learned in coaching so that you can learn this tool too. I don't need to be better than you and be making money as your coach or anything. I want to help everybody learn. And there doesn't need to be a coaching or a money exchange. It's just we keep on teaching people the tools we know, and then we can I would say stop this from happening, because you want to speak in the positive. And that's what I'm trying to explain to him too. You have to speak things in the positive. Speak out there the good you want to see, not what you don't want to see. So yeah, it's very synchronistic with this week and my experience as well.
And I was going to say, and how many of those people that pointed out the wrong were really people, or were they bots on the social media, right? That's what I sometimes wonder when there's such a backlash on a post, and this, because I personally don't know people that just sit there and just call everybody names and blah 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 blah, but yet it shows up on social media, and I wonder, like, are they even real? Right? There might be a name associated with it, but does that mean anything? Like, and why do we put attention to that?
Yeah. Well, and even if it's a real person, everybody reads it through their own lens. Some people can read it and think, oh, that was positive, and other people can read it and, oh, that was negative. Like right in the height of COVID, when there was lots of stress in the world, I did this post about one of the guys that was one of the organizers in the trucking convoy, and how the word got put out about he was a racist because he said all these things. And I didn't know this about him, but I just found out he's actually married to a black woman and has black children. And they were calling him racist and all this other stuff. And because they edited out whatever words. But anyways, I did a post saying, how do we know this? And a guy that I know and his wife are both ministers, and I've done ceremony with them. I thought they actually knew me. I really thought they had somewhat of a clue of who I am. And they both chewed me right out for being racist, misogynist, whatever. And I said, can you go back and read that and then show me the part where I said anything like that? A week goes by and I get a text going, oh, you didn't. It's like, yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Like, because they read it through their own lens and their own emotion and all that stuff. And like, I was blown away by that at the height of the COVID stuff, how the whole country got put on edge and was snap judging everything. That anything that passed before them, they'd be like, it means this. And you couldn't even argue with them in that moment. Like, or even have a conversation, even a civil conversation couldn't be had. It was just bizarre. Just bizarre. That was hopefully something in the past and not to be repeated too soon. But I see that when people choose different political parties, they think, well, if you're on that side, then we can't be friends. And I'll share quickly. I did a post about that, And I got a lot of flack from people I grew up with. Like I've known the guy since like grade 6. And he was like, he wasn't shredding me, but he was like, he said, like, I'm just laughing at you right now. And I said, well, if half the country thinks differently and you vote in your half, does that mean you could ignore half the country? I said, no, you have to talk. We have to talk. It's the only way out of this mess. Because if we're not talking, we're not solving anything. And then he stopped responding.
And I've had other people tell me the same thing when they've gotten into a what might seem like a confrontation on social media, and they just come from, I'm just peaceful, right? I'm just peacefully stating something, and the other individual is like wanting to make wrong. And then when they just keep that vibe of say more about that, or here's how I see it, right? Like you're really just coming from that space of wanting to be loving and kind. The other individual seems to go away. And I'm going to bring Maria up. Well, instead of someone going away, she's going to come join the conversation too. And so when you're talking about parties, I just was thinking about a pool party. I was thinking about the political parties. So I'm going to throw this out there. Okay. There's a great movie going on south of the border. It's called America. And so what is real? I'm going to go around and what is real for you, and what do you feel is real? Maybe that's the way to say it. What do you feel is real or true about what's going on, or what you think maybe you haven't heard, maybe you have heard, maybe you feel something? What's the story that you're telling yourself? Tanya.
Yes. Good question. Do I know how to answer it all? No. There's so many things that I don't know. So I don't feel that I can really say I know anything. And I feel that in every given moment, in any given moment, whatever is happening in that moment, in that energy, that's it. That's real. If I'm not thinking of anything else, or I'm not aware of anything else, it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean that it's not happening though, because for someone else it's happening in their moment, in their reality, and whatever energy they draw into it. So I'm teaching myself to keep things really simple and not get involved in is this rah 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 rah. I might see things on social media and I have a response to it, and I think, well, no, listening to what Joe was saying, it's like it's very easy to jump in from your perspective and think, oh, this is how it should be, or this is how it is. And I have my responses and go like, oh, no. But then I make sure that I follow up with, but do I really know that? Because I'm only getting part of the story. I'm only getting a snippet of, or a whatnot. I'm not getting in any moment, I'm not ever getting that person's full experience, because I'm not them physically anyway. So, and I don't know why they've done this, and I don't know what this is, or so on and so on. So, yeah. Just a little bit to kind of jumping back to what Greg was saying when talking about racist sort of things, and people going, well, you're racist, blah, 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 blah. I was watching a video for Byron Katie. Anyway, she has her 4 questions with someone I came across, and I thought, oh, that's very interesting. And she was talking to a woman who was, I'm not sure what nationality, but she was, I think, maybe Asian. And she was talking about how she teaches about racism. And she said she often deals with white people who are racist, and she finds it very confronting, but this is her job and whatnot. And it was an interesting thing to watch, because it also takes back to that what I got from it, I'll start from the back and work forwards, was that when people say, oh, you're racist, or no, I'm not racist, in myself, I will say, yes, I will say I'm racist because I judge everyone. It's not just your color. I will judge everyone because that there are things in me that still happen. It's not got to do with your color. I'm just judging you as a person. So that as a race thing, you know. So it was interesting to listen to everyone, listen to the conversation that Greg was talking about being racist and whatnot. So yeah, it comes back to me and my perception of things, and what I think is real, and what I choose to hold on to, and how I judge things. So did I beat the brief?
You like hit the button right on. No, I think that that's so aware, like so astute of you to be that aware of where you are in your perspective. I would love to have everybody be able to just say, well, this is all I know in the now, and everything else is, I say, it's all on video. I don't know if any of it's real or generated, right? Let's move over. We'll go Greg, because we'll balance it out and stick you in there, and then we'll go back to the females version.
For me, when I watch stuff, what I look out for is when I feel myself being pulled to one side or the other. Because when I feel that, it's like, okay, why is that? Because I believe either side is correct, because it's still part of, to me, a broken system. So like, yeah. And I do find myself being pulled more towards like what would be considered a conservative view of things. And I observe myself, and, I don't absolve myself from judging, but I observe myself being pulled to that side a little bit more. And then I just question that, like, why is that? Why is that? You know what I mean? Like, cause I really, really truly believe that the whole political system as it is now is 100% corrupt. Not like 99.99%. It's 100% corrupt. They just have different corporations that they answer to. And it always is based on funding and not what the people want or need. So I don't have a use for that sort of system. And so that's what makes it even more amazing to me when I listen to one side over the other. I kind of laugh at myself going, so, because my true feelings are that it doesn't matter. So there's still something in me that is attached to the system.
I'm going to save my commentary for the end, okay? Because that's when you talk about attached to it. Yeah, I'm attached to like the weaving of the fabric of the story. And so I'll share that in a bit. So Maria, would you like to share what are your thoughts? What do you feel is real, not real?
But it's very ambiguous. What is real? What's not real? It's very ambiguous. And a lot of it has to do with individual experience. It may bring up past experiences, learned experiences. When you consider creation, the creator, that is real. And if you begin with the concept that the creator created this creation, whatever you mean by creation, in love, in light, that doesn't get into we're vibrating in a much lower frequency in the third dimension. And in the third dimension, one of the characteristics is opposition. Some call it duality. For health, the opposite is illness. For up, the opposite is down. For light, it's dark, day, night, etc. So it's the third dimension physical realm includes opposites, and that's the nature of the vibration. And when you go into a deep stillness, whatever way you experience that, then you're out of it because you're in that, in a blank. There have been times when my mind went blank. Okay, the stream of thought is an outcome of the third dimension. For example, language is linear, grammar, one word after the other. When you go, and that's not wrong, it's fabulous for the third dimensional world. And to judge, is it red light or green light? Stop on the red, go on the green. That too is judgment, yet it keeps us safe. Oh, so wash your hands before you eat. You don't particularly want to pick up parasites. So that involves judgment, but it's a part of making your way through the three-dimensional world. And there is the high frequency where parasites aren't parasites, where the opposites dissolve. So that's a take on it. I had an experience when I first became conscious of this, that there is a higher level. I was 11 years old. I was in a group home for children without a country. We were all refugee kids. And it was in Austria. So some of us all of us came from the Eastern Bloc, from communist countries. And I noticed I was 11, my brother was 9. I noticed my brother being very uncomfortable. And my closest friend, who was also 11, following him, pestering him, and 3 younger children were following this friend. And I said, "Why are you bothering my brother? Can you see the judgment, big sister coming out in me? That's judgment." And so my friend says, "We're not leaving him alone until he says that God is real. He said there is no God." So I stamped my feet and I said, "Leave him alone. That's what he learned in school." So suddenly, in my immature or mature 11-year-old mind, neither of them was wrong. My brother was not wrong for saying there is no God. My friend, who had already gone to school in Austria, where religion was a part of the curriculum, was not wrong for saying that, yes, God is real. Both are right. It's that I saw the big picture and neither could see the big picture. I mean, to me, and this is, I think it kind of is what I heard Greg say. Greg, you said it your way. But to me, I'm very much in the third dimensional world. Even standing up for my brother involves judging. But that's the nature of this world. And that higher realm, there's no judgment. It disappears. And the opposites aren't opposites because only the diversity is within the positive spectrum. It doesn't have a negative opposite. So anyway, that's what I can say.
Say that last part again about there's no diversity.
Okay, in a higher frequencies, like somebody calls it the fifth dimension, whatever you're going to call it depending on the belief system. There is diversity, but the diversity isn't the negative. Like right now, the duality is polarized, bad and good, really, really, really bad, and really, really, really good. And so when at that higher frequency, the badness disappears. The envy, the jealousy, the resentment, the hate, the fear, whatever, is not there. The diversity is, what do you enjoy? Do you enjoy strawberry ice cream or chocolate ice cream? There's diversity, but the diversity is all within the positive range. That's neutral in the middle. The negative the negative part of the continuum ceases to exist, because that's a part of the duality, the polarization. So in the higher realm, there's no polarization. So when I stepped in as a big sister in this very judgmental, dualistic world of polarities, I was operating from a higher view in which there is no polarization. Neither is bad, and they're not opposed to each other, they're just different.
No negative, there just is.
Okay, at the very high level, yes. Yes, you're right, you're right. And I've had experiences when my mind went totally blank and it was
Yes.
just pure being.
Yeah, because the real basic part of that,
It was just, even to call it all good is already judgment. I agree with you.
His dog is saying, hey, at the highest level, I'm in
the dog
charge.
is judging somebody. Hang on a second.
He's judging someone. The dog is judging.
That person's not supposed to be here.
Ah.
Or are we reading into it? Or he's just really happy to see them.
Well, we're very much third dimensional, right? We're in the third dimension.
Oh, even with the dog, we can judge.
Sorry?
Even with the dog, we can judge. They're barking and they
Yeah,
shouldn't be,
yeah.
or they're barking at someone
Well-
because the person shouldn't be here, or they're barking because they're happy to see somebody.
Yeah, it could be either. But it's the nature of the physical world, and we have to have those skills. We have to have these skills to live in this world. We're not disembodied spirits in the 13th dimension.
See, I think we've been trained to have those skills or those habits. I wouldn't say they're necessarily skills. And like we were talking a little bit earlier before I think you arrived, Maria, that Greg, I think, said his, parents said, this is green. And he said, why is it green? Or, and it's like I thought too. I could tell my daughter red is green and she would think red was green, right? Like we're pretty much programmed. And for me, it's the diversity is in the experience, and then I'm the only constant, right? And so I see the world as just, I don't see polarity. Like, I don't see that everybody's completely opposite. I actually see that everybody's coming together. Everybody's working on their stuff. They're all getting little by little in their own way, or a lot by a lot. That's all I see. Like, I had a conversation yesterday with two people that, I couldn't even enter their store during the, like I had to stop, put a mask on, in that same sense. And, the one man came, he goes, wow, the independent journalist, somebody with a phone, right, has got their own video of what went down in the States. And he's saying, I saw this. So this is a traditional guy that, that somebody would peg and say, he's not awake yet. Okay. And I'm seeing, he's waking up, like he's seeing things. So he goes, wow. And then his wife, I said, so what is your feeling on all this that's going down? Do you think anybody's telling the truth? And she said, when have they ever told us the truth? And I was like, well, that's a great question. If everybody's ready to confront that maybe none of it has ever been true that we thought was true. Maybe none of it's been real what we thought was real. Then it's really comes back to, how does that affect me in my life and everything that I made mean what? So if everything's all about me, there's no, the last thing I want to see is great big polarity within myself, right? I want to see a balance. I want to see an integration with all the rest of spirit. And so I see that happening with everybody. And I see this whole escapade of for me, I see it as a gentle filtering of changing the narrative for people in a way that in manageable pieces. I've been watching some mainstream things, and I'm going, wow, they're in mainstream. They're feeding the individual these little pieces. Like the news only gives you half the story. And I was like, wow, that when they're talking about that the main news only is giving you half the story on the mainstream, it's not just fake news anymore, right? So they're literally helping people break down the concept that what you've ever seen on the TV or what you've heard on the radio, what you've heard or what you've been taught is true or real. And it allows us all to come back to our own personal experience. And like I certainly don't have any of the experiences Greg has, or Maria, or Joanna, or Tanya, right? Like we're completely different experiences, but through our experiences, we're able to see things differently and come together in a conversation like this that respects the viewpoints, but recognizes that life is pretty awesome, actually.
Well, when the eyes are perceptual organs. They receive information and filter it and pass it on. However, they also send information. So when you look in a benevolent gaze, you're sending well-being because they're two-way. The eyes are actually two-way. So when you bless, to use very traditional word, when you bless what you see, you're infusing more light and love into it. So you're shifting whatever collective reality, because our realities do overlap. Our energy fields overlap, our biofield overlaps, even through Zoom. And at that level, there is no localized space. So we are connected not only through our energy fields as well as Zoom. Zoom is our assistant, and so our reality to a degree overlaps, and or let's say experience of reality rather than reality. And sometimes people are like sponges. They soak up the energy fields of others. And that's wonderful if you're soaking up a happy community's happiness. And it's rather detrimental if you're soaking up the distress of what you're seeing in a war zone on TV, because people also soak that up. And it's very difficult to distinguish what is mine, what is not mine in these overlapping energy fields. And television puts people, I've forgotten, is it theta? Is that very, very, alpha, whichever brainwave that is extremely open to being influenced. So you don't know what else is coming intentionally or unintentionally. Hitler worked with 6 psychologists to shift the belief systems, the perceptions of the population, because the population wouldn't go along with a horrendous agenda. He used 6 psychologists who were willing to develop the process to influence the population. So that perceived reality was altered through manipulation.
Well, I think I'm going to ask Joanne to jump in here. I think that's one of our habits is we've been told a certain history, and And I think as time goes on, the only thing we're discovering is that that history hasn't necessarily been true, right? It's, you know, the land that we stand on, where it came from, how many billions of years ago. The science is still finding things all the time. And I feel like those are the things that kids have all had experiences, or maybe not everybody, but there's been that experience that something doesn't make sense on this planet, right? Like, or in your family, or what am I doing here? Or, you know, there's just something, because you're very much more connected in that sense. You're still wow, isn't this an amazing world, until you start to be trained. And once you're trained, everything you're spitting out is, to me, is like AI works on data patterns from the past. And to me, that's like the subconscious. It just spits out stuff. It's not, and we do it quite quickly. Like, I can move my hand this fast. I don't know how I did it, but I'm generated. It comes back to AI generated me to get this done. So I think to get away from all that response and the knowledge of it all, and just in the quiet being of it, in the experiences, is personally, I feel, where we're going. Much more aware of discerning the differences of what we're being told.
There is a huge difference between what is organic and what is materialistic, leaving out the love. The materialistic, the AI leaves out the love. It can program affection, but it cannot give you the genuine love that a so-called soul. A soul is a little bit of the creator. An individual is a drop of the creator. And that's where that unconditional love is, that there is no thought, it's just pure beingness. And AI does not, and indigenous cultures excel at that. They recognize the consciousness of plants, the consciousness of stones, and so on, and the world over. And and with the AI, or with the materialistic worldview, even before the technology for AI, with the materialistic worldview, it disconnects the unconditional love, the pure beingness that is the background.
That's good. I like that, Maria. That gives me hope, because everybody's in this fear zone that AI is going to take over the world and do this and that and take over these chips in our brain. And now they have all this metal in our cells now that they can just turn a switch and we're all going to be like stuck to this magnet and do whatever, you know. But if, like Maria says, if you take the love factor, then what Greg was saying earlier, it may take 100 years for them to figure out how to they can figure out how to put the love factor in, but they can't do it because it's ethereal, and AI is working on in a different level. And AI, I can see it's working on 3D, and it's not yet going into the fifth and higher dimensions. Maybe I'm wrong, but it gives me hope for now, to not feel fearful of AI, that it's not like any answer I'm going to get, it's never going to come from the heart, because it doesn't have one. So if I want the answer, like a feeling or a loving or a caring or a supportive from the heart, I'm going to call a person instead of look up on AI, because I want their intention, their intuitiveness, their higher being. Like she was saying, up in the higher dimension, it's a different kind of intervention and connection than AI could ever give for now, maybe 100 years, like Greg said.
Well, the Hopi prophecy, and I keep coming across the Hopi prophecy, it shows two lines, and one line of humanity is on a slow downward slope and comes to an end. And the other one is on an upward angle, up, and doesn't come to an end. And the explanation that I've been given about it, and it's not one source, several different sources that all overlap, is that the downward line that ends and finishes is the materialistic, if you wish, transhumanism, AI kind of line, this technological kind of line that ends. It cannot live, it cannot sustain life. And the other one is the spiritual. And the spirit has its physics too. The consciousness alters the subatomic what happens subatomically. And so so that's the consciousness itself is spirit is conscious. When it's based in unconditional love, it continues. I take heart in what I see, uh, in that you cannot take this unconditional love out of people. It's You cannot take it out of them. You can do the as much as you want to suppress it, but you cannot take it out because it is the foundation of being, of existence. To give you an example, in my grade 2 reader under communism, there was a story glorifying terrorism. In the story, there is a youth, a teen, who is a beautiful musician playing the mouth organ. And he is instructed to go to a particular home where the lady of the house, middle class, and this is directed at hating the middle class. We were being trained who to hate. So he is to go, and the lady of that house, of that home, very much enjoys mouth organ music. Ring the doorbell, and when she's at the door, say, I heard you like mouth organ music, and I'd like to play for you. As she's standing there listening to him play, shoot her. This is in the grade 2 reader, and other stories like that. Then how come the millions of us, of my cohort, have not become monsters? Because you cannot take God out of us. I mean, okay, let me say that again. You cannot take that core essence of unconditional love out of us. It doesn't mean we don't mess up, but you cannot take it out of us.
People can choose to not view it, though. That's the free will. That's what enabled really, really, really good people to become Nazis, because they just thought what they were doing was right because they were told it was right and they believed it.
Yeah.
And to me, all the things that have kind of plagued humanity is because of people's willingness to go along with things and their trust in what they viewed the power systems around them to be. And I think it's that same element in humanity that is going to save us. But we have to put our trust in spirit, in God, whatever you want to call it, and do it from that point of view instead of from the power struggles that people are trying to gather power, like the political power and the corporate power. Like, none of those are going to supply anything to humanity that's going to serve humanity until we can actually access spirit more equally and more honestly with ourselves and accept it into our lives. And then all the stuff, including AI, then will serve us instead of us serving it. And I think all the technologies and stuff that we have today, they're not going to go away, I don't think. I think they're just going to get refocused. I remember being like 16 years old going like, this is the wrong math. there's a higher math that actually changes what we're being taught. And like all this basic rudimentary stuff about math that we're taught is like not even 1% of what math really is. You know, like when scientists, they talk about how when they film like a UFO, how it's going like 1,000 miles an hour and then does a straight right-hand turn. And they're going, that's not possible. That's because we don't even begin to understand physics yet. We're little babies. We're little babies wandering around in this large universe, and we can go to school for 10 years and then tell everyone how smart we are and how full of ourselves we are, and get paid a lot of money to reiterate just what we've been told. And a few of them go through that and access spirit, and then they change their ways. You know, like there was I forget the name of this guy. He was, it'll come to me in a minute. Like he wrote a pile of books and all that sort of stuff. Then he actually accessed spirit. He wrote about spirituality for years and years and years and years. And then he finally actually had his living moment experience with spirit. And he never wrote another book because he realized he was full of shit for all those years and made millions of dollars. He realized that it wasn't accessing spirit, it was accessing a very, very organized mind. And that's it. You know, and you know, yes, all those horrible things happen, and yes, Hitler used a lot of psychology, and yes, they're still trying to use it today, but the end is the real answer is not what are they doing, it's what are we doing. Yes, it's 100% finding yourself, owning your own life, owning your own responsibility, owning your own choices, being aware. Like I've watched TV programs where I see the programming they're trying to do, and I kind of giggle. I laugh. I said, oh, that's what they're trying to get me to think, you know, and I laugh, and it doesn't affect me, or at least not much, right? At least not much. I'll say that for sure. You know, like if I find myself being pulled in a political direction one way or the other, then for sure somebody got to me somehow. You know, but I still get, my choice is to edit that. You know, and that's, you know, Jacqueline and Tanya and Joe have heard this before. It's like it's your amount of honesty with yourself, to yourself, about yourself. And when you start having that level of honesty, then you say to yourself, I'm not sure where that thought came from. I'm not sure. And it's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. That's the whole point of being human, because we're not. But just have that level of honesty going, like, you know what? I really don't know that. Like someone said this to me a long time ago. It's like, what do you know for 100% certain? Without any doubt. Yeah, it's basically nothing. It's basically nothing, you know. And Einstein said this before. This is just a repeat. It's like, you know, you've all heard this one before. It's for every one thing you learn there's 1,000 things, and that's being very, very generous. 1,000 things that you don't know about that one thing. So you have one question answered, and then you get 1,000 questions more. So the ability to say how smart you are and what you know, and boast of all this stuff that we know in our mind is, in essence, kind of a waste of time. Like it's a good practice to teach yourself when you can actually look at it and go, I just said that. I just said I had the answer to this, and you know, it might not be the answer. It might not be the whole truth. You know, and I know when you know, Jacqueline and I have talked about this, when I first got into spiritual stuff, I had to know. And when I knew, I knew. You know, and I was none too afraid to go point out to other people, you know, that's really not that spiritual. And it you know, and I laugh at it now because it was me. It's always been me, and it will always be me that needs the work. And that's why I laughed during COVID when people kept going, well, we got to wake up all these sheep. It's like, well, how awake are you? It's like people running around going, trust the science, when there was probably never a scientist ever that said trust the science, because they know it's an ongoing, evolving story. So there was zero scientists ever going, you got to trust the science, because it changes every 20 years. What we thought years ago, like a friend of mine had a medical book from the 20s, and in there was the shape of clearly an African head, saying this shaped head does not have empathy, can't feel love. And it was like, it was a medical journal. And it was like, there was so many things in that book that was just mind blowing, and for sure we can look back and we think, yeah. I worked at a doctor's office before, and I'll say that there was a lot of them pretty full of themselves, because I said, history is going to repeat. Like what we knew 20, 30 years ago, we're going to look back in 20, 30 years from now and go, oh my God, we hardly knew anything. And I got such dirty looks from about 4 of the doctors in that room going like, no, we know. It's like, okay, I'm glad you know, but there's much more to know. And okay, go ahead. I could keep going, but
well, I was just going to add in there, when you say, like, that's one of the things I've started to allow myself with this conversation on AI, right? When you mentioned it earlier too, is like, how do I actually know? Like, I've believed that I'm source creation and everybody is source creation and we're all part of a hologram, and that's my story, that everything exists in the whole and we're all selling about, like, that's my story. But is that the story that I've been programmed with? Am I an AI replicated force? You know what I mean? Like, I don't actually know that.
well, you've heard me say before, so it doesn't matter. And this is 100% true for every single human on the planet, bar none, is whatever we've experienced up till now, when we wake up tomorrow morning, that's all we got to go on. Whatever that is, however we judge it, however we file it in our heads, we get up tomorrow morning and that's the truth, that's the reality, that's how it is, until we wake up in the morning. And the biggest key for me is keep your intuitive sense always on and be ready to change directions at any minute. And that's it, because that's actual learning. That's actually allowing spirit to guide, because it guides only through your intuitive system. It has a rough time guiding the mind, because the mind likes to have control and be in control, and we've been taught that through school and history and all that sort of stuff, teaches us that the mind is a wonderful thing, and it is a wonderful thing, but it shouldn't be our leader. It should be our follower. It's like the computer, but our spirit is the programmer that tells that computer where it can go, what it can do, and all that sort of stuff. That's the step that the mind is missing. In my limited experience.
It's like, I know Tanya has told me she lives in Brisbane, Australia. And I know some facts about Australia. There's like koala bears and there's kangaroos, and I know she wears her Ugg boots when it's like 22 degrees. I know all
I do, I confess.
So I know all this stuff about Australia. I've never actually put my feet on the ground of the land that's called Australia. So until I actually have an experience of being with the land and the people there, it's all up here, right?
Because maybe she doesn't really live there.
Exactly, right? I have it. I'm just all
I just believe I live here.
Yeah, maybe you don't. There you go. Maybe that's one. But it's like someone said. I told them that we're looking to go to Egypt, right? We're going to, and they said, oh, well, I'd want to go and be immersed in the people, and they had heard that I said we're not doing. It's not like a retreat. But that's what they got focused on, so retreat. And they're going, well, if you're just going within, why would you go to Egypt to just go within? You could just stay within right here. And I was like, no, the experience is to go experience Egypt. to experience the people, the energy, the grains of sand, and realize that's how tiny we are in the universe, right? How, for me, the pyramids weren't built by the guys hauling the rocks. They were probably these things that we've yet to allow ourselves to truly believe that are actually, I think, is what we're capable of. Light, sound moves things, new, the old math, that's new math that's yet to come. But the idea is that is getting to know through the experience what is actually true, instead of just reading about it and watching videos about it and thinking I know about it. Because I know when I actually set foot in Eastern and Southern Africa, and those 4 months in 1991, that transformed my life right there. Right, that was when I was like, that's when spirit showed up in my life. Like when it showed up that I got it in a different way, because there was just the life force, and these people were happy, and their eyes were joyful, and their smiles, and I was like, this is nothing like I've seen on TV. Like, it's just nothing. The animals aren't even the same. The animals aren't even the same in the zoo. Like, because they move, they're in the wild, they're stronger, they're more vital. Like, it's just, they're not the same animal. I went back to someone came to visit me shortly thereafter, and they wanted to go to the zoo, and I'm looking at them, I go, that's not really a lion. It looks like a lion, but it's like an AI version of a lion, like it's not really a lion.
It would be a depressed, neurotic lion. I was watching a program on lions before, and they actually introduced live food that they had to chase and catch, and they put them in a bigger enclosure, and all their health issues went away from the lion. Like, they were fully healthy again, because that's what they do. And all that gets taken away from them, and that's like an example of if we become a welfare state, that's what's going to happen to human beings. We're going to be disease ridden, bumps on a log in a widget factory, because we will lose touch with our spirit, and we're not going to be doing what we're supposed to be doing. And that's like that living free cures lots. I don't think we can even imagine what that actually really means yet. Because once we live in a way where we don't have to think about what's the government going to do, what are the laws all around that? It's just the laws in our heart, through spirit going like, this doesn't feel right to do this, so I shouldn't do this. We don't need someone with a gun pointed at us to say, stop doing that. And I'm not saying that there's some people that don't need that. There might be a handful of people, but I think it's very, very few people that actually need that. I know pretty much everyone I know in my life is a pretty decent human being, and they wouldn't do anything too ridiculous. Like just about everyone. And I hung out with a wild crowd when I was younger, some took a little longer to mature than others, but like at the end of the day, but if we were living more in a society like that, we don't need all that. We don't need all that. And just that ability and that knowledge and that feeling of freeness, then I think is going to just let our spirit soar. It's part of it's part of that third dimension that keeps us in a dense sort of state. And dense, yeah, pun intended. So, yeah.
So for me, if we keep coming back to how honest are we with ourselves about being in the now, so that would take me from Greg, from Tanya, it's like being in the now. Maria's like being above her 11-year-old self, like be in that space where there's both parties are typically right? Because they're both having their own perspective, their own concepts. And Jo, she's just like, I can't even really see her anymore. She's fading out, just becoming like one in the scope of things, just realizing, that know what your vibe is that you want to put out there. What is it we really want to create in the world? And if we want to create more joy and more acceptance and more love, and we want to see that, then let's see that and notice it and acknowledge it and talk about it, and really connect heart to heart and be honest with ourselves when we're judging, when we get triggered, and when we're reacting to something that we have to learn to respond to, or maybe not at all. Any last words on what is real?
I'll second that about the response, because did my friend actually have to put that post out? Yes, I had to stand up and speak for what was right. Did you have to? Did you really have to? Did you have to react to something that you thought was wrong, when they actually just really had a nice time and were showing companionship and whatever? It might have been dangerous, but everything was fine in the end. My daughter's saying since she was 5, and when Greg was saying earlier, I wanted to stick this in, is she said at 5, "Mom, you never know what you never know." And I'll never forget that.
I've heard people say, they'll be driving in their car and it's like, wow, I was almost killed today. So, well, it's like a guy come close and did all this and whatever. It was so close, I could have died. It's like, well, I'd say absolutely none of that happened. Because you can't almost die, unless like you were in a car accident and got taken to the hospital and all that, the whole scenario played out. So it's amazing what our minds like to weave into our experiences on a daily basis. And we all do it 100%. Everyone does it all the time. It's just, how do you weave that? And I also wanted to talk about like the new age movement years ago. Like, I heard people going, go out and shine your light to the world. And it's like, you can't, it's like sitting down with children saying, we're going to have quality time right now. And you have to sit down with your kids several times to get all the energies in the right place, that it does happen sometimes, and you have to do it repeatedly. And I think shining your light in the world is just one of those effortless things. When you're in the right spot, you just do. You don't have to try. It should come naturally and easy. When you're feeling it in here, you go out and you have that joy in your heart and you see somebody and you smile at them, and it's not relevant how they respond to you. You just smile and you're happy to the world. You help people. Like, if you see somebody struggling, like somebody that's not that strong carrying a bag of groceries or whatever, like all those little things, you just do it automatically, and it should be effortless. It shouldn't be like, I'm trying to be a better person. It's like, well, that means you don't think you're a good person already, or you don't think you're good enough. You're judging yourself way too harshly. So I think that, like I've talked with Jacqueline at length about this, about how our several experiences in your life, like pretty much every experience, it's either you're polishing your light body, or you're tarnishing your light body, and you get to decide how that works. How you weave your memories, and how many good memories you have, and how much joy do you find in different situations, and that. And as you're finding the joy in yourself and sharing the joy in yourself, it's polishing that light body. And then it starts to become easier and easier until it's just pretty much effortless. And like, I'm not saying I am like that always, but I have, most days it's pretty easy and pretty effortless for me to go out into the world, and wherever I go, I feel the joy of myself and others uniting. But it can't, yes, that's all I'm going to say right now.
I think that there's not one person that I know of. I'm not going to say that there's not one person ever, because I don't know that, but not one person that I have come across that does not have a belief about something that has been instilled in them from someone else. I think that it's an interesting concept in my mind, if I want to like mentalize it, to wonder what it would be like if we just had our experiences where, if I just had an experience and the awareness of that experience stopped, and then the next experience, and they were separate beings, how that would feel from how we are now, where we have our experiences, but our experience, the follow-on effect is based off of what we remember from the last experience, and the last experience, and the last experience, and the beliefs that we've added to that, and that we've made of whatever's happened in the past. That pops into my mind at random moments in time, and I kind of go, yeah, that would be different. What would that be like? And in my body responds and goes like, that would be really nice, just for a change, just to feel what it would be like, not to have a belief and not to think, have this. For me, a belief is just a repetitive thought that I've held on to for friggin' ever. It doesn't make it fact. It just is just my belief. And I would just very much enjoy having a moment of quiet where there is not a single belief in me, and I'm just here to enjoy the experience of whatever it is, without going, I can't have this experience because it's going to be shitty, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to feel like this, and I shouldn't feel like this because I should be like this because I'm a spiritual person and I'm wonderful and I should know this by now. I would just like to have an experience just quietly, peacefully, and go like, that was different.
What comes to me right now is when you said about experience and beliefs is, so I've been taught from my indigenous friends that when you find a feather, it's a message from above. And I saw somebody and they had a post and they said lately they've been finding feathers, and they had about 6 different variety of feathers that they took a picture of. And so I'm like, it's a message, right? I'm ready to type that back, like, you're getting messages. And then I read what another individual said, and they said, well, what did you feel when you found that feather, and what did you make it mean? And I was like, right, those are questions I would ask other people about their beliefs, but I wasn't even noticing that now I have a belief about when I find a feather. And I think that's what you're talking about, is that's how subtly we're shaped. And is it true? I know I pick a lot of stories or beliefs because I like them, right? They work for me until they don't work for me, until I'm grabbing onto this belief or this attachment and I'm going, yeah. And then I have an experience that shows me, oh, it's not necessarily true, like the feather, right? Different perspective.
And that's a daily over and over and over experience. And yet we always still try to grasp something to believe. I find, and I laugh at myself about that because I do too. I like what Marie was saying about how there's overlap. I think it even goes a little bit past that with humans. It's like a couple of weeks ago when we were talking, I said, if you take a bubble and we can identify with the bubble because we see it, there's the orb floating by, that's the bubble. When it pops, is the bubble still there? Or just our belief of what the bubble should be? The air that holds that space is 100% there. And I think that's like us as spiritual human beings, we have to pop all those bubbles because we're not overlapped. We are just one. There's no overlap. There's no beginning and end to us. and all that sort of stuff. There's just the one. But we tend to always grab at, I can identify with the bubble because I can see it. My senses pick it up. I see it. And it's easy to do that. And then when the bubble's gone, then what? That's the releasing of the belief. When the bubble pops, the belief is gone. And then what are you left with? I think the only thing we can be left with is there's no judgment. There's nothing left to judge. There's all that's gone, and it's just spirit. That's when we have to rely on our intuitive self. And it may be true that the feathers bring in a message, but what I kind of giggle when people say, well, if you find this bird and this color and this, and it's on a Tuesday and the feather's pointing west, it means this. Well, and it probably did for them, right? It probably did for them. And if you're not paying attention to how you feel in that moment, and it's not important to notice the direction, but just trust that intuitive thing and ask. And sometimes you get nothing, and you just got to walk away and be okay with that. And sometimes you get something, and you got to be okay with that. It should be the same reaction to both sides. Like the nobody's wrong in that, and you have to do that with yourselves, right? We have to do that with ourselves where we don't make ourselves wrong. It's like, oh, I should have been more spiritual. I should have got more out of that feather. I missed my opportunity. Oh my God, how could I do that to myself? And when I share stuff like that, it's because I've been there, I've done that. And I'm not saying I'm never going to do it again either. I'm not saying that. I don't say I have it down pat. So when I share stories of that nature, it's because it's alive in me. That's the only way I can see it.
Is that like when I found the eagle last year? I'm like, there's an eagle, because I thought I was seeing eagle. I'm like, there's a dead eagle on the ground. Greg, there's a dead eagle. I text. I stop. I bring the bird. I scoop it up. I bring it back, and I go, okay, so what are we gonna? We have to. And I'm not even really. I just saw the white. I saw there was white, and I was like, it's an eagle. It was a goose.
And what did it mean?
It meant that I don't know a difference between an eagle and a goose.
Damn good lesson.
Yeah. It was the excitement. Ooh, okay, there we go. But yeah. All right. Well, I thank you guys all for being here. This is great. I like the perspectives, because that's, I think, what we do. The more we share our own personal experiences and engage in conversations like this, it just gives permission for other people to do the same. And that's what and that's for me what I see. I see that the world is just becoming a more beautiful place all the time, and I'm enjoying the experience of watching my life transform before my eyes, because it's all about me.
So go out into the world. Don't try to shine. Just let it happen naturally.
Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. It was awesome. Thank you.
Meeting next Thursday? When are you? Okay,
Yes.
next Thursday.
Yes.
Next
Thursday, same time, same Catwoman channel.
Okay, every Thursday?
5 p.m.
All right, I'll be here.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.